Hey class, I hope everybody's doing really well. The class is definitely going by really quickly. This week you are all responsible for the topics or the assignments found in topics 11 and 12. So this week we're going over how to interpret epistles and apocalyptic literature. Again, remember your plumber quizzes are due on Friday at 11:55 Eastern Standard Time. And you have two forums this week like last week, so make sure that you go ahead and complete those two. I just wanted to make a couple comments about the Doriani assignment, which is due this Sunday night. So the biggest problem I often find with the Doriani assignment is a misunderstanding of the concept proposition. So just wanted to give you a few details about that. A proposition is basically the wedding together of a theme in the text, particularly and most often the main theme, but as Doriani explains that there could be many themes in a passage. So it's the wedding together of a theme and that life application that's developed from that theme. So go ahead and turn in your Doriani book to page 163 and go ahead and pause it, and when you're there, go ahead and start replaying. But what you'll see on page 163 at the very top is he says propositions may be either declarative or engaging. You can declare what ought to be done as a consequence of the truth, or you can engage your hearers by inviting them to decide what is true. So if you look at both of these statements, you'll notice that there's really two clauses in each of the statements. You have a prescriptive element and a descriptive element. So the prescriptive element is something that we ought to do, something that we should do. And if you notice in both of these statements, it's we ought to do something because the text says something. So you have to have both of those clauses. To simply apply the text is insufficient for proposition, and to simply state a true thing about the text is also insufficient. You need to say, because the scripture says this, we ought to do that. Or if the scripture says this, which we're assuming of course it does, then we ought to do A, B, and C. So make sure that your propositional statements have both of those elements. And notice that it's always the truth of the scripture that drives application. So that's a very important point. So go ahead and make sure you develop your propositional statements accordingly. I went through the forums, and it looked like many of you are doing this really, really well. Also, you'll notice that a topic is generally the basic subject of a text, and a theme is the unique perspective of that topic. Therefore, your theme should always be more specific. It should be a specific development of that topic. So make sure you make your statements, your topic, theme, and propositional statements accordingly, and I'm sure you'll do really, really well. If you have any other questions, you can post them to the Doriani forum. I encourage you that the proposition, developing a propositional statement is a really helpful statement. It's like a thesis statement in many ways, and it really should be the main driving point behind a sermon or a teaching lesson or a counseling session. It's because the scripture says something, we ought to do something. Remember that in 1 Timothy, it tells us that the scripture is meant to change us. So make sure when we're teaching that we're definitely showing the life applications of the topic. So I hope all of you guys do well, and hopefully this is a concept that you can adopt into your teaching and preaching and counseling ministries.